Hello and welcome back to your South King County Real Estate Update. My name is Sarah Eggleston with Stone Egg Realty at John L. Scott, and I'm back to deliver your local real estate news for the week. I'll go ahead and jump on into these slides. All right, so today is October 7th, 2022, and we'll find out what happened this week. Happy Blue Friday. I got my colors on. I hope you do too. Last week, Seahawks did take away a win, 48-45. It was a very close game. That was such a fun game to watch. Close games are always fun. But they'll be playing again at 10 a.m. this coming Sunday against the Saints. So make sure to tune on in for that. The M's are headed to the playoffs. They're actually, when I was finishing up, they may have finished now because they were in the top of the ninth when I grabbed this, but it was 4-0. And there's two more games against the Blue Jays coming up this week. This is really exciting. This is something we haven't seen in a really long time. Wild card spot for the Mariners. Awesome. So make sure to tune on into that too. And what happened this week? So this week, I did meet with a potential seller. They're contemplating whether to sell their property now or whether they can wait. Really, they would prefer to sell right now. So we're kind of going over I went over and checked out their house, gave some suggestions on what to do to market their house to the best of it, like have it show its best, because the homes that are selling right now are marketed correctly. They are staged, clean, just really well presented, move-in ready. Those are the homes right now that are selling very quickly. So I went in, gave some suggestions on what to do, and we have another meeting to talk about the market and pricing coming up. So we'll see where we head there. But I'm super excited to get going on this listing. I hope it comes through soon. Go ahead and jump back on into these slides. So this came from the Northwest MLS. This is their monthly release. Brokers say home buyers finally get some relief with returns to a more traditional market. There has been a decrease in pending sales from a year ago of 31%, but prices in most counties are still rising. So buyers are seeing a little bit more relief. There's sellers that are taking offers that have financing contingencies, inspection contingencies. There's a lot of buyers that were struggling to purchase a home in that crazy market with the low interest rates that are now finding some success. Yes, they're paying a higher interest rate for the majority. Like I've said this before, there's ways to get around it. So if you're curious about that, let me know. I do have a home buyer class coming up. Dates and details to be announced next Friday, so make sure to stay tuned. But buyers are getting some relief as we head back to a more balanced, normal market. While inflation and rising interest rates are not helping the situation, there is way more inventory on the market and prices have decreased since spring. So there's kind of a give and take there. And it's still technically a seller's market, but this is the most favorable market to buyers that we have seen in more than a decade. I honestly can't say I've heard this term before, the great reversion. The number of homes on the market is up 106% compared to a year ago in the Tri-County area. So that's a pretty significant increase, way more to choose from. But it's worth noting that current inventory levels in King and Snohomish County are still around 13% lower than they were in September 2019, prior to the pandemic-induced market shift. So inventory is way up from what we saw during the pandemic, but it's still down from what we had in 2019. So we'll keep an eye on that. And months of supply, which is kind of a theoretical number. If no new homes came to the market, we would sell out of homes in X amount of time. A year ago, 0.7 months supply, and we are up to 2 months supply now in the Puget Sound region. There's other areas that have a little less, but we have way more to choose from right now than we did. There's fewer buyers out there, so prices have decreased. They're not getting bid up above the list price like they were for the last couple of years. Yeah, there's just a lot of silver linings. Here's a quote from J. Lennox Scott, Chairman and CEO of John L. Scott. Although the housing market experienced a major intensity adjustment from the spring, the percentage of homes going under contract within the first 30 days is strong and resilient. We are seeing approximately 80% of sales activity take place in the more affordable mid-price range and upper end price points. We're still in a seller's market, but we are seeing a lot better market for buyers, but we can't compare today's housing market to the low mortgage rates of the COVID housing stimulus years. He suggests pre-pandemic data provides a more realistic comparison, noting in September, we experienced about the same number of new listings as we did pre-pandemic, but with less intensity and a lower percentage of homes going under contract. So I think that kind of puts it into perspective a little bit. Soaring interest rates make buying a home in Seattle even harder. This one came out yesterday in the Seattle Times. According to this article, there was a slight dip in the 30-year mortgage rate, but we are at about 6.7 for the weekly average rate for the week. And that's about twice what we started the year at. The result, we're just kind of holding off, says this buyer. This is something that I've heard echoed throughout a lot of stories. There's a lot of buyers out there that have decided to hold off and wait for rates to come down. But guess what's going to happen when rates come back down? You're not the only one with that idea. All the buyers are going to flood back into the market and rates are going to go back up. So if you can get in now while the prices are depressed and the interest rates are a little bit higher, yes, you'll have to pay a higher interest rate for a short period of time. But in the long term, most economists think that interest rates will come down in the next couple of years so you can refinance and get out of that higher rate and be locked into a home. Whereas, in January, February, it was hard to even find a home to put an offer on. And then once you put an offer on it, there was a bunch of other offers on that home. So it was hard to get it. Right now, that piece is way easier, and you will be able to refinance within the next few years and get a lower rate, according to the majority of the predictions. But like I said, this has been a little bit of a cool down. Fewer people are buying houses, and prices in King County have dropped 12.4% since this spring. But the median single family home in King County is up 6% from a year ago on that price. So we're down 12% since the spring, but up 6% from a year ago because spring was crazy. And in the Puget Sound region, twice as many homes were sitting on the market at the end of September as the same time last year. So like I said, there is way more to choose from. Median home prices were up 6.9% in September from a year ago in Southwest King County. Some buyers are finding the upside of the current market because sellers are adjusting their prices or negotiating with sellers to include those inspection, finance contingencies, other contingencies that may be important to that buyer. Sellers are more open to those at this time. So this is our home price activity for King County, Snohomish, Kitsap, and Pierce, but we'll focus on King. We went from 850 to 89999, so basically 900,000. We were up at $1 million, just shy of $1 million in April, May, but we have come down from that, but we're still up from where we were a year ago. And if we look at single family homes versus condos, we can see a little bit of difference there, but the trends are generally the same. Closed sales are down in all categories. The percentage change in prices for condos in Seattle and Southeast King have actually come down, but everywhere else is on the rise for both single family and condo. Showings, these are national numbers that I'm going to go through really quickly. Showings were down 12.2% year over year. So compared to a year ago, we're down 12% in showings and up 26.9% in active listings for the nation. And this quote was from a fund manager who called the 2008 crash. We're not at risk of a collapse today in the financial system like we were before. It's true, housing may be a little frothy. So housing prices may come down or they may plateau, but not to the extent it happened back in 2008. We're looking at supply, demand, what's happening with all that. And even with the higher interest rates, we're looking at strong demand heading forward because we have a lack of supply overall. For home price forecast for 2023, Ivy Zellman did suggest that 2023 home prices were going to go down 4%, but she is in a league of her own right now. Everybody else thinks that the rates are going to go up, home prices are going to go up, although far more modestly than they have in the recent past. So the average is about 1.8% home price increase. For year-over-year equity gains, keep in mind, this is at the end of Q2. I couldn't get the end of Q3 map because I guess we're too close to the end of Q3. But in Q2, the average homeowner had gained $82,000 in equity in their home in a single year, which is pretty crazy. I know that's decreased now, but like, whoa, $82,000 equity increase in a year on average. That's huge. So these are national numbers again. Average equity gain for US homeowners with mortgages, $60.2 thousand. Year-over-year percentage increase in equity for US homeowners with mortgages, almost 28%. These numbers are crazy. So if you've owned a home for the last couple of years, great job. You've done well. Percentage change in home prices from 1991 to 2022, we have increased 481% in Washington state in home prices since 1991. So that's just kind of putting things in perspective. Home ownership is a long-term investment. If you hold for a while, you will do quite well. Look at that. And the change in home prices over year, you can see how quickly we jumped up end of 2020, beginning of 2021, and hung out up at the top here. And now we've started to tail off, but that was a huge increase. So we're about to have a little bit of a hangover from that, but it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna crash down all the way like it did in 2008, prior to where this graph started. And just to bring another layer into this, median asking rent since 1988, you can see how astronomically rent has increased in that period of time. Percentage of distressed property sales, this is what people are looking for when they're talking about a housing crash, is a bunch of people being foreclosed on and losing their homes. That is basically the housing crash definition. It doesn't look like we're headed that direction at all. We had less than 1% of distressed property sales in August. People have equity in their homes. They're not just going to lose their home. They're going to sell it, take the profits from the sale, and then move on to either a rental or a smaller house if they're in financial trouble. They're not going to just let their equity go. The vast majority of homeowners have tons of equity right now. So looking at jobs, this was from the National Association of Realtors, their instant reaction to jobs, the report that came out today. And we had an unemployment rate of 3.5%. That's pretty tight, but the unemployment to population ratio is at 60.1 compared to 61.2 right before the onset of the pandemic. And wages did rise by 5% on average to $32.40 an hour. Workers in leisure and hospitality got a little bit more because those industries are struggling a little bit, so they need workers to move it along. So those industries got a little bit higher pay raise, but that doesn't mean that it's keeping up with the standard of living because consumer prices are rising at about 8%. We would like to see wages keep up with inflation and inflation down, a whole bunch of stuff. So here's those payroll jobs as of September 2022. You can see that the number of jobs has been steadily increasing since early 2020. Consumer prices versus wages. The prices are rising way faster than wages are. So this is not necessarily the best thing to see, but hopefully we can get that inflation under control pretty quickly. However, U.S. applications for jobless benefits increased last week. So here's some conflicting information. This article came out yesterday. So this is talking about jobless benefits, whereas the last one was talking about the number of jobs. We have had a total number of Americans collecting unemployment rise by 15,000 to 1.36 million for the week ending in September 24. So we are seeing jobless benefits increase. Applications for unemployment are going up, but also the amount of jobs created are going up. So I guess we just have more people entering the job market now. But this article is one of the first glimmers of hope. On Tuesday, the government reported that the number of available jobs in the US plummeted in August. I don't know, this conflicting information compared with July as businesses grow less desperate for workers, a trend that could put a dent in chronically high inflation. Basically, we need to see a higher unemployment rate in order for the Fed to stop raising their rate and therefore raising interest rates in a chain reaction. That brings us to our market stat minute. In King County, we had 774 new listings in the last 7 days, 679 pendings, and 637 sold. So we're kind of maintaining what we had last week. In Kent, Renton, and barely Auburn, we did have more pendings than new listings. Federal Way actually had more new listings than pending. And Federal Way is the exception here as well. They had fewer price reduced, the new listings coming to market. Like, look at how many prices were reduced in Kent, Renton, and Auburn. That goes well above the new listings coming to market. So there are more people reducing their price each week than new homes coming to the market. And as far as showings, we've kind of plateaued here. We did tick up a little bit. I know it's hard to tell with that box, but it did tick up a little bit in the past week so this is a great measure for buyer demand for North America. And last week we had a weekly average mortgage rate of 6.7. This week, our weekly average mortgage rate, the headline is rates dipped to 6.66. However, if we actually look at what it is today, it is 7.12. We have been over 7% for a little bit now. It did dip down on Monday and Tuesday, which that weekly average mortgage rate is kind of a Monday, Tuesday-ish comparison week to week. But yeah, by the end of the week here, we have kind of jumped up a little bit or a lot to 7.12. So no, mortgage rates aren't actually lower this week. They're actually back over 7. Like I said, it's all because of the weekly average mortgage rate when they take those little polls from the lenders. One of the economic reports at the top of the Fed's list, the employment situation, or simply the jobs report, comes out Friday, today. If it shows a marked contraction in the labor market, rates could catch a break and recover a bit. If it shows unemployment continuing to fire on all cylinders, markets will conclude that the Fed will remain in a very unfriendly mood when it comes to rates, thus pushing Friday's rates even higher. So because we got a little bit of conflicting information causing some volatility in the market, and we are over 7% today and rising. So this is the last year of interest rates. We started out right around 3% a year ago and did a bump up, popped it down in August for a little while, and then we have been on the rise pretty much ever since. And if you are looking to buy or sell a home this year, if you're looking to make a move, please reach out. I would love to get one of these fall buyer or seller guides to you, or both, whichever fits your situation. So please reach out and let me know if you would like one. And if you have questions, please reach out. Message me, text, DM, call, whatever. I would love to have a conversation with you about the market in your area or an area you are interested in. And thank you so much for joining me for your South King County real estate update. I will be back here next Friday with your local real estate news. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and we'll have a little chat. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next Friday. Have a good one.